This is BBC Newsline. I'm Tara Mills. Tonight's headlines. 5 alleged victims of paedophile priest Father Malachy Finnegan are to receive £1.2 million in combined damages from St Colman's College in Newry and the Diocese of Dromore.
The cases that we're talking about today involve abuse of the most sadistic, cruel and serious nature.
The Health Minister defends his planning for winter pressures after criticism over the lack of a clear plan.
All the operational delivery will be performed by the 5 geographically defined health and social care trusts, so they have to input their plans into our overall master plan.
A teenage boy has died and 2 people are in hospital after a stabbing in Dublin. Middle ground voters tell the Borderland podcast what would influence them if a border poll was called. A new video game made in Belfast tells the story of the 18th century witch trial in Island Magee.
Andy Farrell is back with Ireland and he's gone with a tried and tested squad for a busy November of international rugby.
And cloudy and calm again the fort tomorrow, but change is coming this weekend. I'll have the details shortly.
Hello and welcome to Wednesday's programme. £1.2 million, that's the amount of compensation to be paid to 5 alleged victims of this former priest, Father Malachy Finnegan, who is now deceased. The men were schoolboys at St Colman's College in Newry between 1972 and 1984, where they claimed the priest subjected them to depraved and sadistic sexual, physical and emotional abuse. The head of the Catholic Church in Ireland, Archbishop Eamon Martin, will give each of them written apologies as part of their settlements. Our reporter Michael Fitzpatrick was at the High Court today.
The 5 men, who cannot be identified, were all pupils at St Colman's College in Newry over a period spanning between 1972 and 1984. According to their case, Father Malachy Finnegan subjected them to serious sexual, physical and emotional abuse. The former pupils sued the Diocese of Dromore and the Board of Governors at St Colman's over failures to protect them from the priest. Today it was confirmed all 5 cases have been settled ahead of trials at the High Court. The settlements which have been reached don't involve any admission of liability. Under the terms of the settlements, the 5 men will receive a combined total of more than £1.2 million in damages. They will also receive a written apology from the head of the Catholic Church in Ireland, Archbishop Eamon Martin, on behalf of the diocese. Father Malachy Finnegan was accused of a wider campaign of child sexual abuse but was never prosecuted or questioned by police. He died in 2002, but it later emerged the Diocese of Dromore had settled a previous case brought by one of his alleged victims. A solicitor who represents all 5 men said the cases have had a lifelong impact on her clients.
The cases that we're talking about today involve abuse of the most sadistic, cruel and serious nature. Our clients, at a time of their formative years, when they were children in a prestigious boarding school, were abused by its president, Malachy Finnegan. They were harmed and they have carried this burden right throughout their lives.
Ms Keegan's clients have also called for a full public inquiry into clerical abuse in Northern Ireland. The Board of Governors at St Colman's previously condemned the physical, sexual and emotional abuse inflicted by Finnegan. Michael Fitzpatrick, BBC Newsline at the High Court in Belfast.
The Health Minister has defended his plans to try to alleviate the predicted winter pressures on the health service. It comes after both a member of the Health Committee and the head of the BMA were critical of Mike Nesbitt's lack of any clear plan. This morning, the Minister announced that there had been reductions in some areas of the waiting list backlog. Ita Dungan reports.
Mike Nesbitt took to the stage this morning to address more than 700 health and social care delegates. However, it's not on his performance on this stage that he will be judged, but rather how our health service deals with the upcoming winter pressures. The Minister is expected to announce his plan tomorrow. However, the head of the BMA here is not optimistic. He says he's not been privy to any part of the plan.
I'm exceptionally worried about this winter. I mean, the dialogue is all wrong. The mood music is all wrong. The feel in the staff is all wrong. And we are going to be so dependent on the staff in terms of getting us through the winter.
Health Committee member Nuala McAllister says if there is a plan tomorrow, it's already too late.
We are the second week into October, and we still have yet to see a plan with actions on how the Minister is going to tackle the emergency wait, the ambulance waiting times, domiciliary care packages.
All that, the Minister says, is in the pipeline.
There isn't a final signed-off plan, and the reason for that is a lot of the operational delivery, in fact all the operational delivery, will be performed by the 5 geographically defined health and social care trusts. So they have to input their plans into our overall master plan.
This morning, though, he was keen to push that his system reset is starting to work.
People waiting over 4 years for an outpatient appointment are down 24% since the 1st of April. That is nearly 25,000 people. And people waiting over 4 years for treatment is down 33%, and that's nearly 7,000 people.
Whatever is in the winter pressure plan, it's hoped that the months ahead will be better than last year. Ita Dungan, BBC Newsline.
A young man has died and 2 others are injured after an incident in Dublin earlier today. It happened at an emergency residential unit which operates on a 24-hour basis for young people under the care of TUSLA, the Irish Agency for Child Welfare and Protection. Let's talk to our reporter Kevin Sharkey, who's in Dublin. Kevin, you've been to the scene. What more can you tell us?
Tara, 4 young people, juveniles, were in the care of the state. Accommodation was being provided for them together. And at around about 11 o'clock this morning, the alarm was raised, and it seems that there was a row and a stabbing incident. The Gardaí and emergency services rushed to the scene, and they helped a number of juveniles and a number of adults. Now, this evening we know that 1 young teenager is dead, another young teenage boy is in hospital, and an adult woman is also in hospital. She's believed to have been a care worker. The area is now a crime scene, and as you can see, it happened at this apartment blocks in Donamead. It's in North County Dublin, just a few miles outside the city, off the main motorway heading in the Belfast direction. And all throughout the day, forensic teams were coming there. There was a big Garda presence, and locals, adults, and quite a number of young juveniles were gathering around to observe what was unfolding in their community. And this apartment block was part of one of a number of apartment blocks in a gated community, and what's added to the shock of this tragedy this evening is that it happened in a state care setting.
Kevin in Dublin, thank you. The Public Prosecution Service says it will withdraw charges against Foyle MP Colm Eastwood and 3 other people who took part in an unnotified rally in Londonderry. Mr Eastwood appeared in court in Derry earlier this year, accused of taking part in a pro-Palestine rally at the War Memorial in the city centre in February 2024. Now, one of Northern Ireland's largest catering suppliers says that businesses are having to pass on the cost of post-Brexit checks onto customers. It comes as a House of Lords committee finds the Windsor framework overwhelmingly complex and impossible for stakeholders to navigate. The DUP has described the framework as fundamentally unworkable and dangerous. Our reporter Claire Graham has more.
All part of the heavy lifting, navigating trade after Brexit. The Windsor framework aimed to ease moving goods between the rest of the UK and Northern Ireland. Linus Food Service is an all-island business, which means full customs checks and some port inspections.
The reality is we do pay more. There is more paperwork, there are more health certificates, lots of checks, different things. I have 2.5 staff who just work in my customs department. Now that's just an extra cost I as a business have had to, I suppose, deal with, and we haven't put that through. But yes, the additional costs that suppliers, in particular in GB, put on us has to ultimately get passed through to the customer, which we don't want and we don't like.
A committee at the House of Lords has said the Windsor framework is insufficiently understood by much of the population.
It's a complex and opaque set of arrangements. makes it difficult for Northern Ireland stakeholders to engage with it effectively, and they struggle to make sense of the detail.
They've some recommendations. First, to create a one-stop shop to get access to relevant information and set up a hotline for advice on EU law. A government spokesperson said the framework safeguards Northern Ireland's place in the UK internal market and the EU single market, which ensures no hard border on the island of Ireland. UK-EU negotiations are resuming this autumn. New round of talks going into the autumn. What do you think needs to be discussed?
One, build on the trust that's there between Europe and the UK. I think the second point is technology has come on leaps and bounds in those last 4 or 5 years. You know, we use AI a huge amount in our own business, and I suppose I would say to both sides, how can we use technology to, further the goals of what we're trying to do?
The government says its aim is to deliver prosperity and security across Northern Ireland. Claire Graham, BBC Newsline, Coleraine.
The Alliance Party leader Naomi Long has told the BBC's new Borderland podcast that Hilary Benn needs to set out the conditions he would use to decide whether to call a border poll. A referendum must be called when the Secretary of State believes there is support for a united Ireland in Northern Ireland. But with the growth of a political middle ground here, that's become more difficult to judge. Chris Buckler has been sounding out a group of political persuadables to see what really matters to them in any debate about a border poll.
Meet the middle ground. Voters who see themselves as somewhere in the centre of Northern Ireland's traditional divides. And they're all here because they say they're at least up for a conversation about what would be in the best interests of Northern Ireland if there was to be a referendum on a united Ireland. These are the very valuable political persuadables.
Is it fair to describe you all as constitutionally curious? Are you open to that debate about a border poll?
I have no issue with the idea of having a border poll. I just don't want another Brexit situation where we vote on something that we don't actually know any truth about.
There's a lot of people nodding here.
So, we need to know exactly what we're voting for.
So when it comes to you centre ground people, I'm very aware that the one thing that you don't necessarily like is flags. But that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'll be interested to see how the reaction, because we do have the British flag and the Irish flag. This is not going to be scientific in any way, but it just is going to give us an idea of how you feel about some of these subjects and what you think would be better for the future of Northern Ireland, being a part of the UK or being a part of a united Ireland. On the question of the economy going forward for the next 10 or 20 years, which do you think would be in Northern Ireland's better interests? Being part of united Ireland or remaining part of the UK? Going to ask you to move and go in which direction you think it should be.
Many refuse to stray from the middle ground and stand behind a flag. But on the issue of the economy, the swing among this small, unscientific and randomly selected group was towards a united Ireland.
I know we've already mentioned Brexit many times. To me, that's the defining issue. Being part of the European Union, being part of a united, connected, cooperating group of countries working together, or being part of this isolationist, ourselves alone kind of mentality. Another interesting phrase. That's the difference.
We are being governed by people in London, which is obviously, it's a different island to us. We're being governed by people that don't really care about us over here. I feel like if we were part of a whole Ireland...
Don't really care?
Obviously, yeah, they don't really care. And it's obviously, being a part of a whole Ireland, I think it would take a lot to get there. But I feel like it would represent us whole if we're all together.
Even though I come from London, that we're a bit of a nuisance and they could do without us.
Welcome, sister.
Yeah.
I want to go over to the Union flag. There were 3 of you there. Somebody's left. Who's gone? Who's gone? Somebody's abandoned you, wasn't there?
Somebody abandoned us, yeah. Yes.
But actually, this really says something about how people feel about the UK economy.
At the minute, though, I look at Stormont, I'm pretty sure, I think we run off a deficit of about $3 billion a year, which is obviously covered by Westminster. Would the Irish government be willing to cover the $3 billion?
And how Northern Ireland's public services would be funded would be a big issue in any border poll.
On the issue of healthcare,
Do you think it is better being a part of the UK or United Ireland? Oh, this is already different. What a difference the NHS makes, because a lot of you people who were over with the economy thinking that it would be a United Ireland were better for the economy going forward. There's a huge number of you who have now come over.
I've always felt Irish, but one of the only times I ever feel like proud to be from Northern Ireland as compared to anywhere else, you know, is that I get free healthcare.
Our current system in Northern Ireland is broken. Our waiting lists are horrendous. I have a daughter who's 3 years into waiting list for a simple ear closure. I've been through it through maternity services. I've been through it watching my mum die of cancer. Things are far from perfect, but there's just something fundamental about a free health service.
On the issue of the cost of living, there was a definite advantage for the UK. Why do you think that?
I've been to Dublin. I've seen the price of stuff. My mum used to live in Dublin. I know it's a lot more expensive for travel, for just even, you know, milk, bread. I just know the cost of living is more expensive.
But on the issue of rights and human rights, the swing among this group was towards a United Ireland.
Especially in the United Kingdom and England at the minute, how they're treating protesters, whether it's anti-immigration or pro-Palestine, you are being arrested for anything, and I think that's wrong. We need to protect our right to protest.
The final question is the one that you know I'm going to ask you. If you were voting for United Kingdom or United Ireland, how would you vote?
I don't think we can answer that question at the moment, because we need to know the facts, the truths about what the Constitution, all the questions you asked earlier, how would they be dealt with?
People need a comprehensive plan presented to them that they can then answer.
We can't have another Brexit situation where we're voting on shock statements.
And if a border poll is held, as I've said before, we are the people that will make that decision, because 1/3 of the population will vote one way no matter what the argument is, and 1/3 of the population will vote the other way no matter what the arguments are. So it needs to be made very, very clear what we're voting for.
And that discussion places this group right at the centre of any upcoming debate about a border poll.
Chris Buckler there, and there's a longer version of that Middle Ground feature on the BBC News NI channel on YouTube, and the latest episode of the Borderland podcast is now available on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, it's a centuries-old gruesome tale of fear, horror, injustice and alleged witchcraft in County Antrim. The infamous Island Magee witch trials of 1711 have been given a very modern makeover in a groundbreaking video game. It's one of the first productions launched at Studio Ulster, Northern Ireland's largest virtual production site. Gabia Gaddis-Viscatia reports.
The infamous Island Magee witch trials of 1711 were the last witch trial on the island of Ireland. In a new video game based on the trials, you decide the witch's fate.
And there's a believability meter in there. So you either kind of believe some of the supernatural happenings that are said to have happened, or you don't, and the world kind of changes as you move through the game. So anything can happen, your choices matter. It does come to an end. It's called a witch's fate, where you will decide if the witches are innocent or guilty, and then of course that has consequences.
For the creators, the game has been a long labour of love.
It's been going on for 7 years, and it's been an amazing experience for a historian just to work with so many talented and creative people.
It is a very collaborative piece, so we've been working with other lecturers from kind of history and cinematic arts, and making sure that it's just really cohesive as a piece.
Even though the game is based on events from 300 years ago, you may spot some familiar places.
What's really lovely is just to see Northern Ireland on screen, right? So to be able to row into Island Magee, just down the loch a few miles from here, in the 1700s, and to arrive in the aftermath of the witch trial, to be able to ride on a horse past Carrickfergus Castle.
From the architecture of the buildings, to the costumes, to the characters, the game is historically accurate.
How we can make that balance between history and historical reality and gameplay and storytelling, because it has to be a game. You don't want just a slab of history as a game, it has to work as a game.
Dr. Snedden has now even become a part of the story.
And I'm actually, in the game, as a Scottish preacher, so you might hear me.
Gabia Gatavitskaite, BBC Newsline.
It's as you were for Ireland rugby ahead of a busy autumn. Gavin Andrews is here with the sport. Hi, Gavin.
Yeah, consistency tends to be a good sign. Here's hoping Andy Farrell is back in charge after his successful stint with the British and Irish Lions. And there's a familiar feel to his squad as they prepare to take on New Zealand, Japan, Australia and world champions South Africa next month. Jacob Stockdale's impressive form for Ulster has earned him a place in the group alongside provincial teammates Stuart McCloskey, Ian Henderson and Nick Timoney. Keelan Doris is named as captain and there is one uncapped player included, Leinster's Paddy McCarthy. The Republic of Ireland breathed new life into their World Cup qualifying campaign with a much-needed 1-0 win over 10-man Armenia at the Aviva Stadium. The result leaves the Republic third in Group F, a point behind second-placed Hungary with 2 games remaining. Thomas Niblock reports.
Team in this group. But what gives us confidence is we've always said it from the beginning. Maybe I'm naive, but I believe in this group of players.
Jonathan Rea is set to retire from full-time motorcycle racing when he competes in the World Superbike Championship in Spain this weekend. The 38-year-old is the most successful rider in the history of the series. Steve Watson has followed Rea's amazing career from the very beginning and this week sat down with him ahead of his final World Championship appearance.
I first met Jonathan Rea aged 8 years old and he always dreamt big.
Motorbikes are definitely for you then. You want to make a career of this?
Yeah, the Rea family. Watch out in the future.
And that we did through teenage dirt bike days with his dad watching on. His father had been a racer himself and in his borrowed leathers, Jonathan won a prestigious talent programme. British Superbikes followed and then the World Championship where he won an amazing 6 titles in a row. A switch to Yamaha last season in search of another sadly didn't go to plan.
All this stress and setbacks and tough times, it's always worth it when you're winning. You know, I know that feeling all too well. But it's been a struggle these last couple of years. From a performance point of view, I haven't been where I feel like I should be. It just got to a point where I felt like it wasn't worth it, you know, and there's a lot more to life than what I'd done at this track. You know, racing's given me so much and, you know, it's time to take a different path.
Jonathan has one more weekend of World Superbike racing left.
I want to finish this chapter, you know, safe and sound and really enjoy the fruits of our labour. You know, it's been a massive career. And whilst we say it'll be the last race, is it ever the last race? I don't know what's next for sure. I've got ambitions to do things a little bit differently in the future. So my talent, my life is Superbike, is racing. I still have that passion. Let's see what the future brings.
It's been an incredible journey.
Chrome Sykes will dive to the inside. They are side by side.
For one of Northern Ireland's most popular sporting stars.
He scores more points than anyone else has ever done.
Thank you so much for backing me. Glad to give so much back to the sport and good memories and someone to cheer for on the world stage. But it's the guys that my fans that have given me that made me feel even bigger than what I really am.
Record breaker and history maker. It's set to be an emotional farewell. Stephen Watson, BBC Newsline.
The end of an era. Finally, Gary Haveron has been appointed as permanent Larne manager on a 3-year deal. The 44-year-old had been in interim charge of the club since August. That's your sport tonight, Tara.
Gavin, thanks very much. You can't beat the colours of autumn. Barra is here with the forecast. Hi, Barra.
Especially when we're stuck under this anticyclonic gloom. Yes, the cloud just keeps continuing to be stubborn, little in the way of bright weather, and there's more of it to come over the next few days, I'm afraid. Lots of cloud cover continuing this evening. On the upside, yes, we've lost the sunshine, but the cloud acts like a blanket during the night, so it stops it from being too cold. And overnight tonight, we're looking at lows of maybe 8 or 9 degrees. Tomorrow, though, we do it all again. It's a bit like copy and paste. Lots of cloud and maybe a few spots of drizzle. Most places, though, will be dry, but it is going to be rather dull for most of us. The cloud remains quite stubborn. A few breaks, maybe the odd glimmer of sunshine, but I think for most of us it's a cloudy picture. If you're travelling, the best chance of any sunshine will be towards the southwest. We have a brisk wind here helping to break up the cloud, but further north it's a cloudy picture, but at least it's mainly dry. Temperatures tomorrow maybe down a little bit on today, 12 or 13 degrees. A few breaks in the cloud maybe tomorrow evening could allow temperatures to drop to maybe 6 or 7 degrees, but where we have the thickest of the cloud again tomorrow night, those lows staying at about 8 or 9 Celsius. So another mild day, start to the day on Friday. But very little changes again, lots of cloud in the forecast. It's this area of low pressure, though, we're keeping an eye on for the weekend. It's set to bring change our way. Not good change, I'm afraid. Wet and windy weather. So before then, on Friday, again, lots of cloud. A few breaks, perhaps some glimmers of sunshine trying to break through as the winds pick up a little bit as well. Temperatures up to at about 13 or 14 Celsius. Then, as I mentioned, into this weekend, it all begins to turn a little bit more unsettled. On Saturday, a promising start. Rather cloudy, the winds begin to pick up, and by the end of Saturday we're going to see rain coming in from the Atlantic. You can see the rain there appearing on the Outlook chart, and that signals a change into Sunday and into next week. Low pressure systems start to beginning to come in from the Atlantic, bringing some splashes of rain, some fresher winds over the weekend too. Temperatures, though, in and around average, maybe just shy of 13 or 14 degrees.
Thanks, Farah. That's it for now. Our late news is at 10:30 from everyone on the team. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening if you can. Bye-bye.